When you're early and starting, you probably don't have a huge organic audience. And you have to think more about building less things and promoting them smartly to make sure that you're balancing the way that you're investing. Because you can burn up a ton of dollars creating content, even if you do use Claude to be able to build it, because that all costs just as much as if you come up with a smart way to promote that content.
Welcome to Managed Chaos Podcast, where we give you the startup business rundown in less time than it takes for you to get to work. Welcome to Managed Chaos Podcast, where we give you the startup business rundown in less time than it takes for you to get to work. I'm Katrina Purcell, and today I am joined by the wonderful Jenn Ravalli, who is not only a very good friend of mine, but is also a go-to-market executive with over 15 years of experience building scalable growth engines across startups, scale-ups, and global enterprises. She's busy, but as the founder of Maverick Meridian, she partners with founders and executive teams who are tired of boring, reactive, and really disconnected go-to-market tactics to build modern GTM systems that resonate with buyers and withstand investor scrutiny, which is very important if you're looking to raise. Jenn is also deeply committed to building talent alongside results. She is a passionate advocate for developing leaders, mentoring high-potential talent, and creating environments where ambitious teams can grow, perform, and lead. Jenn, okay, how do you have the time, first of all? But welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Katrina. I am so excited to be here. Maverick Meridian probably wouldn't exist without you in many ways. Katrina was a huge influence on why I should go out on my own, and more than 2 years ago, we had a, Katrina and Jenn happiness plan that included this path. So it's finally coming to fruition and a lot at your behest.
It is a shared Google Doc that I had to resurrect, actually, once she finally took the leap. And so I tried to get her to come out with me. She waited a little bit longer. Timing was not quite right? The timing always has to be right. So Jenn, go-to-market, I feel like, is one of those things that everyone feels that they can never get right. However, everyone feels that AI is somehow going to solve for them. So let's start with the basics. If I'm a founder, is a sales plan the same as a go-to-market strategy?
No.
Yeah, obviously not. Help me walk through that for these founders.
Sure. So go-to-market is really a contingency of all the things that can possibly touch your customer and become either a lever of growth or a level of loss with them. So when you look at go-to-market should always be owned by the CEO, and they have a stake in making sure that there's really strong alignment across the organization. But it really takes into consideration product and what are you building and how are you satisfying that customer, sales, marketing, and customer success. Because all of those areas and driving alignment across them creates an experience that customers love or one that they hate. And when those things are really disconnected, it shows both in how your customers see you show up, whether you are executing against the right customers to start with in terms of who you're going after, but even also in wasting resources by running in different directions.
Right. It also, I think you and I have both experienced this, it shows up in churn.
Oh, 100%.
Because what the customer was promised as part of that process is not what they end up getting, and then they say, oh, thanks, bye.
Yeah, you did not live up to the experience that you told me that you were going to have.
Exactly. So I personally love one of Maverick Meridian's slogans, which we have a sticker here. Cheap go-to-market is expensive. And I think this is, well, this could be on multiple levels. I sort of see this as Claude made my go-to-market plan. But what other ways do you think about cheap go-to-market? What does that really look like in reality?
Sure. So one of my mentors and first marketing leaders that I worked for is Renee Levine. She's a brilliant strategist. And she always said to me, look, you can have cheap, fast, and good. You can only have two. And when you think about cheap go-to-market is expensive, often that shows up in two different ways that are really easy to understand. First is resources and the cost of those resources, time being where is your executive team spending time, where are you spending time? Should you really be analyzing a lead spreadsheet? Or should somebody who's appropriately paid and experienced in that be doing that work? I think that there's that piece of it where you've got very highly paid people who are doing things that they shouldn't be, as opposed to really augmenting your team in order to be able to support that. High potential talent is a great way to do that. The other piece of that is your investment strategy and what you are or aren't investing in. An example that I can share with you is you create tons and tons of content, but that content is super disconnected from each other, so it's not working together. You also have no plan on how to promote that content. So when you're early and starting, you probably don't have a huge organic audience, and you have to think more about building less things and promoting them smartly to make sure that you're balancing the way that you're investing. Because you can burn up a ton of dollars creating content, even if you do use Claude to be able to build it, because that all costs just as much as if you come up with a smart way to promote that content. Another thing is you invest $20,000 to sponsor a conference, but you decide that, hey, I'm going to build this big, beautiful booth, and that costs $60,000 to make, but it's not one that can be built on its own, and then you don't invest in the labor. So then you end up paying 3 times the cost of the labor when you get to the show, because otherwise you're just going to look unprofessional when your booth is not put together. Or you need to show up really well from a demo perspective. You need great leads coming out of that show to make that show make sense for you, right. And you don't buy the Wi-Fi. So you spent $20,000 and then you didn't spend the $500. So doing that can often really take your results and make you look unprofessional, but also mean that you wasted your team's time because you're not getting pipeline out of that opportunity.
Right, and really the booth and everything else is a sunk cost. And I say that as someone who's had to put together one of those booths from scratch using plans, which was an experience, we'll put it that way. So as a certified partner of Go-to-Market Partners, you use proven frameworks to help companies. When you first walk into a very chaotic, high-growth startup, what is the first framework or audit that you implement to sort of stop the immediate chaos or the immediate sort of bleeding of the pipeline?
The very first thing I always do is have the executive team and then any adjacent go-to-market resources do an assessment. So they go through and they evaluate where they feel they are from a product market fit perspective. How do they understand what go-to-market motions they're doing? What usually happens is the CEO thinks everybody's doing great and we're in a wonderful place, and the rest of the team is a little bit more realistic. And they're usually all over the map in terms of where people are, and you can identify where are the best opportunities. But the most common one that ends up being first is usually total relevant market. Total relevant market is 2 steps further than your ideal customer profile. When you're early, when you are really trying to make your go-to-market sing, the more focus that you can put on it, the better. Mm-hmm. So niching down into who is really an in-market buyer and who is ideal for your solution at that time gives you so much more focus on how you're using your dollars and how you're making decisions on what you're putting them towards.
And how do you handle the nervousness of I've niched down too far when really I should just be trying to serve everyone because I just want customers?
It's generally pretty easy to prove. So when you actually go through and look at a customer list and you look at the prospect list and you look at the mismatch, you can usually show where there are some nice through lines as well. Mm-hmm. And knowing that you can see that there's better margin in those deals, that there's more likelihood that those are going to convert, will really help you be able to make the case that if I do more of these, this is going to serve us better than trying to serve the whole universe. Because that gives you all of the ammo of being able to really align go-to-market. Mm-hmm. Where am I going to put product investment? In the things that are going to make those people the most happy. How am I going to service them? Well, it's a lot different servicing an enterprise customer than it is a small business customer. You can't mix and match, particularly when you're low on funds.
Exactly. And I think in some cases, those types of decisions are where you have to be the contrarian voice sometimes. How do you help or coach teams when you've come in to work with them on how to be that contrarian voice, how to use the data to make their case?
That's a great question. honestly, it's about how do you do it in a positive way, and how do you not make somebody feel dumb in the process, like that they've made a mistake earlier and now suddenly like the house is on fire. One of the best ways to be able to do that and be contrarian, but do it in a positive and supportive way, is to leverage something that's used a lot in technology teams called the Prime Directive. I always find it funny because a lot of people in tech still actually don't know it. But to me, it is the best way to show up, to be able to get your point across and move people through change versus playing a blame game. And that is that everybody came into a decision with the tools, the resources, and what they knew at the time and when they made that decision. Now, you have more information now making this decision, so you may not make the same one. But it's not about blaming somebody for something that they did. It's about how do we move forward together. I think the other thing is scale-ups and startups, change happens fast. And being on top of that and setting a rhythm of when you're going to revisit a decision is also really important, so that you can make really informed choices and not let it get ahead of you.
And so then also that cadence becomes something that's just part of the business. So we're reevaluating every 3 months. It's not so-and-so doesn't like what's happening, and so they've now surfaced this. It got surfaced in the cadence it was supposed to be surfaced in, which helps, I think.
Exactly.
So if someone's listening, what is one actionable thing that they could sit down and do today that would put them in a better position for their go-to-market 6 months from now?
So the first thing is really sitting down and defining what does go-to-market mean in your organization and being responsible for it. And in taking on that responsibility as a founder or a CEO, also thinking through what are the things that my time is worth? What is my hourly rate when I put my mind to something, and where should I be spending my time and resources? Because often that's where you're going to get the drain, is where you're spending time on things where you've got people who already know how to do that. How do you make sure that you understand what is happening, but you're not trying to be in the middle of it, because you need to be focused on higher level things to make sure that business runs all around.
Yeah, that's a very great point. In fact, we've covered that on a couple of podcast episodes, right? How to fire yourself from the things you really shouldn't be doing. All right, well, this has been a really fun first episode of our 4-episode arc. So thank you for joining in to Managed Chaos Podcast. We are going to be back to extract all go-to-market information out of Jenn's brain so that you guys know exactly what you should be doing. Please like, follow, and subscribe us on whatever platform that you listen to your podcast on, and we will see you on the next episode of Managed Chaos Podcast.
Outsourcing your US tech talent shouldn't be hard. With Pobble.io, we deliver high-quality teams on demand and provide huge cost savings to your business. Try it now at Pobble.io. Mention the amazing guys at Managed Chaos when you email us and get a free market data report. Email contact@Pobble.io.